So now am I past the hard part?
Yes, you are now past the hard part, as people say.
Well, everyone says that the worst part about Final Fantasy XIV is having to get through ARR, especially the patch quest.
Keep in mind, you are, if I recall right, most of the patch quests have been trimmed down to an absurd degree, even more than it was for me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Anyway, hello everyone, and welcome to the Big Cat Aethercast. I am Ray.
I am Leo.
And it has been quite a while since we've done this.
Again, things have come up, and was not exactly the easiest thing to get through.
Yeah, fair enough. I know life gets in the way with trying to do this game.
Yes, it does. It really is like a second job.
Hopefully it'll be a lot easier now, because today's episode we're talking about the patch notes. Patches 2.1 to 2.55.
So the last episode was still patch quest, but it was over the side content, specifically the Alliance raids and the Hildebrand quest line.
Yes. And for the next episode, which I'm just going to say right now, it's just going to be all of Heaven's Ward.
Right, Heaven's Ward main story, as well as
updates.
Up
to 3.0. The next episode will be 6.1 to 6.3, and after you've done those, I guess we can slip in Hildebrand.
You skipped from 3 to 6.
Sorry. 3.1 to 3.3, with an intersprinkling of Hildebrand once you've completed 3.3.
There we go.
Thank
okay.
you.
Yes, because I think by the time the next patch comes out, we barely will be getting, hopefully, into Stormblood.
To be honest, the next patch has already come out.
Not the next patch, the next expansion.
The next expansion.
Hopefully the next expansion I will be at or preferably finished with Stormblood.
Ooh, yeah, that's something that I'd like to see us get to in that amount of time, but we'll see how that goes.
Right.
In the meantime, first off, before I even start about going through the patches, so far, what have you been doing in Final Fantasy XIV aside from the story?
That's kind of basically it. I occasionally pop in for leveling. I occasionally pop in for to do the lottery every week. I need to get with the problem is that because I chose the world that I'm in and everyone else is literally faffing about for the next expansion. Everyone else is sort of ahead, and no one is really at the same point where I am.
Yeah,
which is what makes it a bear, especially because all of my other friends are from different, I guess, groups. To the extent that they all I would have to sort of pick one to grow with the other or something, just to form a group.
Yeah, I will say you can now do party trust with NPCs for most dungeons now. Mm-hmm. So that'll actually help you out if you just want to go through the dungeon and you're having a hard time waiting for anyone to proc.
It's mostly for duties for daily duties and stuff like that.
Yeah, that worked because if you're doing DPS, you're going to wait a while.
Right.
That's the thing with DPS is they've got the longest wait time for roulette.
Well, that's pretty much why I've been maining tank for the most part.
Yeah, because that'll guarantee you a slot almost instantly.
Yes.
The only one that's better is the healer.
Mm-hmm. But that apparently can be done on controller. It just requires very specific setups.
Yeah, and I'm not going to do that.
I will at least look into it and see whether or not I want to put myself through that hell. Because I'm still finding, at least at this level, that it is kind of a grind to build up lower classes.
Yeah, especially if you're trying to do multiple classes at once, it can be a bit of an issue.
Also, I'm trying to decide whether I want to go back and do the crafting classes as well as the gathering classes, because I did enjoy the gathering class, or at least I enjoyed Miner. I did not like Fisher, and I definitely do not want to do whatever the fuck agrarian or whatever the farming class is.
Oh, botanist. Well, if you're going to be a gatherer class, you're going to need to learn both botanist and miner. Mm-hmm. They're basically the same thing.
But I thought botanist... Which one is the one that everyone says, you do anyone else, but don't do this specific one?
Fisher.
Really? I thought it was... Is he either...
Well, Fisher is kind of an interesting one. You can level it up really quickly by doing ocean fishing, which is just basically every 2 hours, in real-life hours, you sign up for the ocean fishing, and you just fish as much as possible and just try to get the special fish to cause even more fish to show up. And you can get several levels in just one trip. But Miner and Botanist are basically the same thing. They use the same armor sets.
Right. Maybe I'm thinking of Apothecary then? There was one that everyone said, avoid this one like the plague.
I don't know, to be honest. Most of the crafter classes are pretty much the same, but the one that gave me the most trouble, surprisingly, was Culinarian.
Really? Why?
Because you had to get all the different ingredients.
Oh, right, but that kind of makes sense because it all melds into one another.
Yeah, although to be honest, if you've got the money, you can just buy the quest items off the market board.
Ah, I see.
Which I did do the cheat on occasion.
I think it was Botanist. I think my friends were telling me that Botanist you might as well just to do that with.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Either way, I might go back and try that again.
Yeah. Regardless.
My main issue was they want me to gather basically everything possible, and you have limited inventory space.
Oh.
So it's kind of like I'm still at that point of where I'm learning what's worth keeping and what's worth just like offloading as soon as you get it.
Well, to be honest, you can probably sell some of that stuff, so give that to your retainers to sell on the market board.
Yeah, that's the other thing I still haven't done is set up retainers. I'm pretty sure there's half of people saying, you are not playing this game right!
Maybe not. I don't know. Everyone plays it their own way. To be honest, I didn't have retainers until past Endwalker.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of stuff. I just beelined the main story quest when I first got the game. I did not do most of the side quests or side stuff. I did not do the evilest raids until after Shadowbringers, pretty much.
Really?
Yeah, which I probably should have, to be honest.
Okay, just at that point, you get stuff that otherwise is moot after that point.
Yeah, but with how I'm trying to curate you, I'm trying to curate you better than what I did.
I see. So at least you're trying to help me out, and I guess I am at least branching out in terms of just trying different things too.
Yeah. I think for the next one, after we do Heavensward, I think instead of having you do Hildebrand and the 3 patch quests, I would rather you do the 3 patch quests and the Alexander raid series.
Okay. And I kind of do want to do Alexander because I've heard that series is actually more fun compared to earlier raids.
It also unlocks normal raids for you.
Okay.
Yes. And then after that, we can do Hildebrand and the Void Arc Alliance raid.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll tie Hildebrand with the Alliance raids.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's what we'll do. Anyway, we've rambled on enough. I think we should go ahead and start talking about the patch quests a little bit.
Okay, and also this time, let's include you on the conversation, because most of the time I was just giving my thoughts on it, and you really weren't giving your opinions on it.
You know what? That's actually 100% fair. I will go ahead and give a disclaimer right now. I remember almost nothing about these patch quests.
I completely agree.
Because I'm pretty sure patch 2.2 I only have 2 notes for.
So, I do remember it a bit more in detail, but generally I think you hit the highlights.
Yeah.
And then I can go back and maybe fill in some stuff because I remember it a bit fresher in my mind.
Right. So, the first things I want to talk about is patch 2.1, A Realm Awoken.
So, this is sort of the downtime in between, after that cliffhanger of the Ashians holding their evil meeting and praising their dark god. That's kind of way laid to the sidelines because we have to go ahead and sort of get back into the swing of things.
Yes, we are getting back into the swing of things by basically helping Minfilia find her mother, or her
adoptive mother,
Flamine.
So it was very nice that they gave Minfilia some much needed background expansion, because I definitely think that was lacking compared to the rest of her cohorts. And I think this very much goes into something that is still going to be alluded to in the future, which is the Almegan crisis.
Yes.
And so, of course, with one of my few Final Fantasy experiences being 10, I was hoping we would find out a bit more about her origins. And this gives us some very interesting background into sort of up to some of that.
Yeah. So basically, Minfilia was basically orphaned due to a Gubu or a Gobule. I don't remember what they're called. They're the big...
Gobule.
Yeah, they're the big hunching things with moss on their heads.
Yes.
That went rampaging in Ul'dah and killed her parents. Mm-hmm. And I believe Thancred was slightly at fault for this, or tried to protect her.
Yes, he was trying to protect her, but ultimately he could only do so much.
Right. And in the end, Minfilia got adopted by a nice Mikote named Flamine.
Which I'm surprised she has not gotten more fan art of, given everyone's love for a certain healer that we all know.
Yeah.
So I am very disappointed in the FF14 community. They need to give Philemon more love.
Flamine, funny thing, she's actually really young.
Because we had this conversation, I know, off camera, but is it, because like I made the comment that she was basically this game's version of Toriel, and you said not really, because she is 37. 37, which is within the range, but given how she acts, you would think much older.
Yeah, and I believe in...
But again, adoptive mother is the key phrase here.
Yes, like she was probably very young.
So I think Minfilia was adopted teenage, approximately.
I believe she was in her early teens.
Early teens, so that tracks, even though people probably think much older.
Yes.
Or at least I do. I might be the outlier here.
Yeah, Minfilia acts a lot older than she actually is.
But given her status within the Scions, I think that's rather warranted.
Right.
So, and given that Philemon is basically the one keeping Minfilia sane, also warranted.
Yes. Now,
still, that relationship is very sweet and wholesome, and Philemon becomes part of the
she becomes part of the Scion.
Part of the Scion's rotating cast, which includes Hori
Bolter and Colton A.
Or as I call them, Horenstance and Gilden. What was the other one?
Horenstance and Colton Stern.
Holdencats and Colton Stern. Yes.
Okay, we're just jumbling words at this point.
Well, that's what they are. They are
Gildencrantz.
Rosencrantz and Guildenstern.
Thank you.
If we could remember the fucking literary references that we all so greatly cherished in AP English.
Fun fact, there's actually a character in the Silence of the Seventh Dawn who is constantly fawning over both of the Boulder brothers.
Really?
Yeah, and she doesn't know which one she wants to fall for.
Oh, they...
Yeah, I believe that happens once you get into the Rising Stones, but that's later.
Okay. Still, I think these are characters that they've introduced for the purpose of giving someone to hype the Warrior of Light up.
Yeah, these are like people who respected the Warrior of Light and wanted to join his cause, basically, or were idolizing him.
Basically, the adoring fan.
The adoring fan. But not in a bad way.
Not in a bad way, thankfully. We do actually have some content aside from story expansion, like Good King Mogomog.
Yes. Basically, the Mogsguard were feeling a little distressed after everything and began praying to their almighty ancient leader, Good King Mogomog, I don't remember if it was the 12th or the 13th. 13. Praise be his palm.
Praise be his palm, yes.
Yes. And they basically summoned a primal.
Which I think the entire game actually freaks the fuck out about, because up to this point, the primals are known beings. They are on par with deities.
Yes.
So they thought that they had every single one of them down, and basically the Moogles created their own god in their own image.
Yes. They basically resurrected their ancient leader.
Which is funny, because because by the very definition, Good King Mogomog the 13th, praise be his palm, is the 13th of his name.
Yes.
Implying there were 12 Mogomogs prior.
Yes.
And they chose the 13th for some reason.
Well, that's the one that led down a rope that descended them onto the earth when the gods began bickering.
Which that lore is in and of itself nuts.
That will actually get explained a little bit later on in Heaven's Ward. I am not kidding.
For those of you who are, because this is a audio-only podcast, I was looking at Ray with a shocked expression.
Yeah, a dumbfounded expression.
Nonetheless, the raid itself, the fight itself is actually fun with copyrighted music, of course.
Yeah, like, you cannot tell me that does not sound like This Is Halloween, This Is Halloween.
It absolutely is the opening to Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah, and this is coming from two former band geeks, basically.
Yes, and well as you being a Final Kingdom Hearts nerd.
Yeah.
So that absolutely must have given you some flashbacks.
Oh, yeah. But the fight is actually pretty good. The the extreme version, I believe you actually have to take down specific Mogs in a specific order before you can actually attack Good King Moggle.
Yes, they do make that difference. And in exchange, you get one of the the
Moogle weapons.
Moogle weapons, which make a little couple sound when you draw them.
Yeah.
Which you can spam repeatedly to annoy your friends.
Oh, God. That's just as bad. Okay, quick side note. I had to deal with a horrible interaction between two Lalafells in Gridania the other day.
Which two? The ones that say that there was a noble looking after them to make them his sex slaves, and then they were going to rob him blind? No,
it was just literally two Lalafells going, wah, 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 against one another constantly.
Oh, it was a potato screaming match.
Yes, and it was so fucking annoying. I was like, fuck this, I'd rather be in Limsa. Yeah.
Aren't you from Limsa?
No, my home base is Gridania.
Oh, okay.
I started off as a Lancer.
Okay, but but then you signed up with
the Maelstrom.
The Maelstrom, that's what.
Yeah, because I liked the ideas that Merlweb had.
Right. Anyway, we also have the meeting of Elidibus.
Elidibus. Get that right, because they will say it often. Elidibus. Yeah. And he is basically the mediator of the Ascians. He's the one who likes to preserve balance.
Is he now?
Yes. He is... I can't say anything. Damn it. Just know that he's there for now, and just know that his plans seem very confusing or contradictory at times. There is a reason for that.
Okay.
And you will not find out till Shadowbreakers.
Okay. But ultimately, the bulk of this arc is the Scions are now famous, everyone wants to vie for their favor, and Alphino is like, Alphino tells Minfilia, we can't do this shit while we're in Ul'dah. We have to get out. Yeah, they basically said, we're literally in a place that does not have an aetherite. Mm-hmm. And that was partially intentional by not by their design, but by the ruling powers that be prevented them from having an aetherite, from gaining too much power. Mm-hmm. I believe that was the case. So they ended up moving to Mordona. Right, and ultimately settle in the Rising Stones. Yes. Which is a much nicer place, and it actually has a fucking aetherite. Right, and so that's how they solved the Vesper Bay ticket situation. Keep in mind, I did not get those tickets when I was playing. Right. Yeah, so, oh boy. Okay, but generally that is the end of 2.1. Yes. And then we go into 2.2, which I forgot what the name of that patch is, but 2.2 goes into, and I think it sets up more for future DLCs because it doesn't... Oh, this is the Maelstrom one. Yes, so it sets up things, I think, more for Stormblood, but they're still relevant for purposes of setting up Heaven's Ward. Yes. In this one, we get the introduction of Yugiri and the refugees from Doma. Remind me, did the Al-Ra come out? They were not out at this point. I believe Al-Ra came out during Stormblood. So this is just teaser for development down the road. Right. So Yugiri is a noble head from... I forgot. Well, she's not a noble head. No. She's a ninja. Okay. She's an assassin. Then is she basically the...
She's doing this on behalf of her lord.
Right. Okay, so she's a servant to royalty.
Yes.
But what I was going to say was, it was her reveal for Ninja.
I believe it was, because I believe Ninja came out around this time or so.
Okay, so this and then this gives you the option for the Thief class, which is what builds into Ninja.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm never learning Ninja. That is way too complicated for me.
Is it now?
Yeah, you have to do, 3 hand signs to do one move. You have to do a different 3 hand signs to do another move. And I believe one is also 4 hand signs.
Isn't it really, the last hand sign that matters for the purposes of the
Yes, thank you, Joe Cat, for teaching me that. But still, I'm not learning Ninja.
I mean, it sounds like you only need to... It's slightly less button mashy than Dancer?
It might be another case of Simon Says, so I don't fucking know, but maybe I'll give it a try one day.
I mean, you gave Summoner a try of all things, so...
Yeah, but that's after they heavily reworked it, because before then, it was a heavily bloated class that could not be done on a controller.
And how many reworks does Summoner have?
I believe 3 at this point.
I mean, that is pretty extensive, if I do recall.
Yeah, at this point, it's basically, you can do most of it on one hand, pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, with the controller, I mean.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean the fellatio that's on their head.
Right. Still, you have to help settle a bunch of refugees from off-seas, and they do resist most of the tropes that they could have made, although you still have to deal with people hating on foreigners.
Yeah, sadly, that is the case, and Alphino's not too keen on that.
The other thing that they go into a lot, because I think this is the patch in which that, and I'm going off of memory here, I think this is the patch that enabled PvP. Because some of the lore bits they talk about is the land conflict that is where the PvP arena is, which is why it's setting up for more plot development later, but basically where the final battle in patch 1.0 occurred is still disputed territory between the three nations.
Oh, Cartno, yeah.
Cartno. So the divide over Cartno is explained to you at this point, and part of the reason why Cartno is brought up is to set up a certain character's motivations later on.
Yes.
So they give this to you at this point, and then later on they give you bit by bit, which I will say is a very nice way to overall build the story of the patch quests.
Yeah.
So I think that was and I'm hoping that continues down the road.
Yeah. Most patch quests are either continuations of the story. Let me just say this: most patch quests, like for Heaven's Ward, the patches from 3.1 to 3.3. I keep fucking that up because I keep thinking about the current patches.
Right.
Yeah, but 3.1 to 3.3 finishes off Heaven's Ward. 3.4 to 3.55 build up Stormblood storyline.
Okay.
But there is still stuff in the early patches that lead up to Stormblood.
Got it.
Yeah. In the post-Stormblood expansions, it's mostly continuing the wars going on there, but with a sudden revelation that gets you yoinked into Shadowbringers.
Got it.
And Shadowbringers is kind of like its own standalone thing, except for the 3 patch quests after that.
Okay.
Which, by the way, you're going to need to do in Shadowbringers. You're going to need to do half of the raid, the normal raid series, which is Eden, before you finish patch 5.3.
Got it.
When we get there, I'll explain it better.
Okay. But the big ongoing threat this time is that Leviathan has decided to go out of control, and you're going to have to deal with him now.
Yep. Gotta deal with that. I believe we also get a bit of lore dump from Minfilia and Urianger about how souls return to the Ethereal Sea.
Yes. So basically, what makes the Warrior of Light different in how they are able to come back.
Yeah, and how the Asians work.
And how the Asians work as well. Why you can't just kill an Asian.
Yeah, and why La Habrea is still fucking around.
Right.
Yeah. So, that's kind of good. It's basically, on this star, people die, their souls are sent to the ethereal sea, they get reincarnated and come back as new people.
Yes.
That's basically it.
Yes. That's more or less it for 2.2. 2.3 is Defenders of Eorzea.
Well, we didn't really talk about the Leviathan fight.
The Leviathan fight, I remember the Leviathan fight. It was a bit interesting because aside from you're on a ship fighting Leviathan, and so of course there's whirlpools, there's movement, there's force movement.
Yeah, it brings out its tail to sweep around. It brings out fishmen to attack the area.
As far as like the other primal fights up to that point, I don't think that there was. And it wasn't that memorable, but I would say it was a good scrap.
It was a good scrap. It's not very complex, I will be perfectly honest.
I think that's what it is. It's not complex.
The extreme version has the bars against the barge break off, and you can fall off.
Okay, that would make it more interesting, because then that puts you in the same threat level of fighting Titan.
Yeah.
And Titan is even more complex because Titan reduces the area as you fight him.
Yeah, Titan's a bit more of an interesting fight, if I'm perfectly honest.
Yeah, so I think that... But I think they kind of like... It was the sort of the situation, okay, we gotta go ahead and have this fight happen eventually.
Okay, I will... No, I shouldn't say anything. That's for later down the line.
Okay. So now can we talk about Defenders of Eorzea?
Yes, patch 2.3, Defenders of Eorzea.
Okay, you have the opening point as the vanishing of the students of Baldecian. That is a understatement. They got absolutely wiped off the face of the earth.
Yes.
Magical nuke got dropped on their school.
Yes, the entire island was disappeared.
What do you mean? No, not disappeared. It was deep sixed.
Yes, it was. And I will tell you right now, this plot point comes back in Stormblood.
Okay.
In a sort of area that you can go to farm for really nice weapons and gear. Okay. It's a very long, extensive area that's basically its own map and its own stuff. It's called Eureka. Okay. And basically, it is an immense thing. It does deal with the Isle of Val.
It does explain what happened.
It does explain what happened, yes.
Okay, but the way that that it's at least initially displayed, it's not just a poof. It is a mushroom cloud gone off the face of the planet, as far as everyone's concerned. Yes. With only one known survivor.
Which is Kryl.
Right.
Yeah, and if you're a Final Fantasy V fan, you will know that Kryl Baldecian is one of the player characters from Final Fantasy V.
Is that a straight-up reference?
Or? It is a straight-up reference.
Wow.
Yeah. She is literally the... You've never played 5, have you?
I've never played 5.
Okay, well, initially you had 4 characters. One of them was an old man named Galuf Baldecian. He was a king. Okay. And basically, he dies off halfway through the story, and he gets replaced by his daughter, Kryl. Okay. And that is your party member in Final Fantasy V.
Okay, so she comes back in this game under this circumstance.
Yeah, Galuf is also mentioned as well as being a friend of Louis Soir.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, that gives some more weight to it then. Yes. All right. So with this is important because it eliminates basically an entire organization that would have helped figuring out how to deal with the Ascian. Because that was what Minfilia was trying to do, reach out to them to figure out how they could possibly deal with them. And now that completely off the table.
Yep, pretty much.
Unfortunately, the situation in Ul'dah has not gotten any better. The Almegans are getting more restless, as they do.
Yep, and they are rioting.
We get introduced to a little shit who has been memed on for, I'm going to say a while, because I knew about this meme even before I joined this game.
Oh, really?
Teleji Adeleji.
Oh, yes, this little mustachioed twit waffle.
So, Teleji Adeleji is at least initially introduced to you as a noble with a who is sentimental to the plight of the Almegans, and offers to go ahead and is one of the few who will help you deal with them while basically the rest of the syndicate fucks off.
Yeah.
Because none of them see any point in putting their own necks into this situation.
Right.
However, at least at the time, it's seen as he's just trying to grease his palms. He's going to get his due elsewhere. His exact motivations are not found out until the end of the patch quest.
Correct.
And I do mean the end of the patch quest because, as you know, when I got to that point, I was pissed off.
Really?
Yes. I mean, you remember the text message, the Discord message I sent after I saw the but anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah, you can tell me in a moment.
So he makes his appearance. He's going to be a relevant character later. We also find out that so we dealt with Ultima Weapon.
Yes.
In the end of ARR, only to find out there's an even bigger version and better. That's called Omega.
Well, what Omega is an ancient Allegan artifact. Mm-hmm. Yes. Yeah, which the Ultimate Weapon was supposed to be another ancient Allegan weapon, but Omega's even more mysterious and stuff.
Right.
You'll learn about that in the Stormblood normal raids.
Okay. We get through that. The next primal who decides to cause trouble is Rama.
Yep.
Or Ramu.
Rama. I have no idea how to pronounce it.
How it's pronounced in 16.
I think it's Fuck, I don't actually remember.
You played the game. You should know this.
I think it was Ramu.
I think it's Ramu. Yeah. I think the modern pronunciation is Ramu. Okay? Get over it. It's Keishi, not Kate Sith.
Even though it's pronounced Kate Sith in the game.
No, they changed it. Didn't they change it to the correct pronunciation for the remakes?
Nope.
No, they're going to still pronounce it Kate Sith?
Yep.
Okay. Fuck Gaelic.
Fuck Gaelic, yeah, pretty much. Which, I'm sorry to people who are actually Gaelic.
Okay. Still, you go ahead and we have Rama's fight, which I think is slightly more interesting just because of the placement of the lightning strikes, as well as just the overall feel of the encounter.
Yeah, you basically have to take care of his little mini summons to basically prevent, because otherwise you can't really do damage to him.
Right.
You have to, it's been so long since I fought Ramu that I can't really remember his mechanics that well. I just sort of just battle through it pretty much.
I remember it. I remember positional being a lot more important than in Leviathan, but that just might be my own memory fading too.
Yeah. But I will be perfectly honest, the ARR summon primal fights aren't the best. They get better in Heaven's Ward and beyond. Like or as they are called later, the trial fights are basically much better. And
then, of course, we get more development on dealing with the Ascians.
Oh, this is when we learn about the Ascian resurrection.
Yes.
I had talked about it in patch 2.2, but it's actually when it happens here.
Okay. But then other things that happen, we get the Alphino realizing that the Scions do not have their own military force, ends up making the moves to go ahead and sponsor his own grand company.
Yes, or as a YouTuber I watch, KZ Excellent, has said, he wants to make diamond dogs.
I mean, effectively, yes.
Yeah.
But I will say we went about it in the most shit way possible. In recruiting people, we basically get, I think, it's mostly you go around to characters who you helped throughout ARR and ask them to join you and recruit. But I think you get a lot of no's with a couple of exceptions being either people who betrayed you, people who kind of came off as jokes, or people who are introduced explicitly for the purpose of joining up for this.
Yes.
For that become relevant future down the line.
Right.
So, not exactly the best and brightest compared to the other grand companies, but you gotta start somewhere.
Yeah, you gotta start somewhere, but you'll eventually build something that'll be worth a damn. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink.
Right. Also, we get to talk more about Hoshafant, because this actually leads into Heaven's Ward.
Hoshafant, which is such a bro.
Yeah, no, I'm liking his character more and more.
Yeah.
So
he is such a good egg.
Hoshafant starts mentioning, of course, he mentions the issues with the
with the dragon.
Bit more backup. Minfilia mentions that if they're going to go ahead and stand against the Garlean Empire, the continent needs to be unified together.
Yes.
Because right now, the three main kingdoms between Oldog, Gridania, and Limsa Lominsa are only half the continent.
Yeah.
There's actually a whole other northern part which has basically isolated itself out of religious dogma and dealing with a fuck ton of dragons that they don't want to invade them. They don't want to be invaded by.
Right.
So
they're in a 1,000-year-long war with the dragons.
And it's always just to put it, an actual 1,000 years. Like, that is an absolutely absurd amount of time.
Yeah, I mean, dragons are long-lived creatures.
Right. Still, even longer is the papacy that exists, and we'll get to that when we get to Heavensward.
Yes.
But nonetheless, the 1,000 Years Crusade is still going on, and Haurchefant requires the player's help to negotiate, needs to help deal with the Northern Kingdom's problems if they wish to negotiate to help deal with the Garleans.
That's basically the gist of it.
Mm-hmm.
So basically dealing with the quote-unquote heretics.
Which we get introduced in 2.4.
Yes, 2.4, Dreams of Ice.
Yes, so it starts off with being introduced to Emmerich, one of the knights of, and forgive me, what is the kingdom that they're even from? Because I forget,
the Holy See of Ishgard.
Ishgard, thank you.
It is not a kingdom. It is the Holy See.
Right, which, I mean, the Holy See is just a matter of the royal. It's basically the religious version of the royal throne of.
Yes.
So it's the religious throne of Ishgard.
Yes.
But either way, the kingdom of Ishgard requires their representative is Aymeric, who is I think he's a fairly cool character.
Oh yeah, he's one of the better new characters that they introduce.
Take the kindness and laid back attitude of a Haurchefant, but give him Alphinaud's resources and cunning, and that's basically what Aymeric is kind of like.
And put a few more points in charisma.
A few more points. He is very posh.
Yeah, he is very posh. He is very suave. He knows what he is doing, and he's got the power to back it up. Mm-hmm.
So, in addition, the main bulk of the story here on in is helping Aymeric out because there's 3 points of plot interest, but one of them doesn't really resolve anything. It's more of just you know how you fucked up the general Gaius.
Yeah.
With everything that happened in ARR.
Yeah. Well,
consequently, not that it matters for not consequently, but part of what we get a side view of what's going on with the Garleans at this time, and basically civil revolt.
Yes, civil revolt and the crowning of a new emperor.
Basically, within the factions of the Garlean Empire, there were two sides that were waging war against each other. One of whom was backing Gaius, as well as his leader, the former emperor.
Right.
And then a new upbreed, which were backing the emperor's son.
Yes.
Said defeat at the hands of the Warrior of Light basically was a moral loss for the emperor's faction, and he basically got usurped.
Yeah.
Everyone says died peacefully in his sleep, but everyone is basically saying, "Oh, we know that motherfucker was murdered."
Yeah, he was killed in some way.
Yes, they don't know how, and they're not going to say openly because that's the kind of dystopia state the Garleans live in, but they know he was murdered.
By the way, there's no actual true model for Solus Zoscalvus.
Why would they? He's dead.
I mean, there's technically one in a flashback, but have you seen what Solus Zoscalvus looks like?
I don't think so.
Basically, he's got like a gigantic white beard, and he has the same funny crown that Varus is wearing.
Really?
Yes. But basically, they hand-created a model of Solus using Ramuh's beard for one cutscene because he was so far in the background that you couldn't see him properly.
Ah, okay.
But data miners found out that they just stuck together two Ramuh beards to make his long flowing
Ramuh beards together.
Yeah, it's funny. You won't see it for a while. It's a Shadowbringers thing. It's like Eureka, but it's called Boja.
Okay.
And it's actually where a lot of the Hrothgars are from.
Okay.
Yeah. But the quest line involving that involves you having a
Vision quest, let's call it that.
vision quest, yeah, and you see a remnant of Solus.
Okay. Still, his son takes over, and this is basically the story's way of saying, you don't have to worry about the Garleans now. But they're there.
They're there. They're going to show up again. And sooner than you think.
So this is a story cap that says, don't put the Garleans on ice. We'll come back to them in a bit.
Yeah, and of course, the first thing we see of Varys is spitting on his father's grave
as he's being coronated.
Yeah,
which is that's some powerful storytelling right there.
Wait, I forget if Varys is Yeah, I believe it. I believe he's the son.
Yes, it's son. It's not grandson.
Yeah.
So
no, that's another character.
So that's story beat number 1. Story beat number 2 is that the Holy See of Ishgard is dealing with heresy.
Deus Vult, my friend. Deus Vult.
For the glory of the Pope.
Yeah.
I wanted to say glory of the Emperor because 40K, but no, it is the Pope. He's not God Emperor yet. I do know at least that much because I watched you play through a bit of Heavensward.
Yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and give a little bit right now. Leo did see me, I believe, do the final battle of Heavensward. Or at least saw part of it.
I saw the opening part of it because I saw the part before he ascends.
Yes.
But we knew that basically he was going to ascend right after.
Yes.
So that much I do know.
But you don't know the key points that lead up to it.
Correct.
You don't know the key points that lead up to it. You don't know what happens after that. You don't even know how the fight takes place.
No, I don't.
And that's why I want you to play this game, because it gets so fucking good.
Nonetheless, the Ishgardians have someone spreading heresy around who has fled their jurisdiction, and they want your help in killing them.
Pretty much.
Which leads to point number 3. The dragons are still being a menace, and they're afraid of either the dragons coming back, dragons breaching the gates, or the dragons and the heretics working together.
Yes.
All of which are bad, and this brings you to Snowcloak Dungeon.
Yes, which is a alright dungeon.
This was, I think, one of the 3 patched dungeons. You said, fuck this one.
Yeah.
Because it's like, fuck Snowcloak Dungeon, and there was one more that basically could fuck right off.
Oh, Zamail.
Zamail Stronghold, yes.
Yeah. I think Zamail was one of the patch ones.
I did Zamail. That one was not too bad, but Ormvale can fuck right off.
Oh yeah, Ormvale is fucking disgusting.
Yes. And if you've never played Ormvale, it's basically their attempt at a Dark Souls poison swamp.
Yes.
With which the entire mechanic is do not step in the poison puddles, otherwise you'll have to run to one of the few poison curative spawning items in the area. And the entire dungeon is littered with Malboros.
Yes, which is why the place is fucking disgusting. The reason why I hate Zamail Stronghold is because no one ever remembers how to fucking do it.
Yeah.
Which is basically standing on the glowing things while the Ahriman just blasts ya.
Right.
And then you gotta stand near the crystals when you actually fight the Ahriman.
Right. We do meet a new character.
Moonbrita.
Moonbrita, who probably has one of the better character introductions for a Scion. She basically literally comes in, says, hello, I'm here to solve all your problems and form the best OTP you will ever see.
Yes. And she starts it off by literally hugging Urianger and lifting him off his scrawny ass.
Which is funny as hell because she is obviously the funny woman to our Urianger's straight man.
Yes.
And we begin to see where everything goes downhill.
Yep. So, but basically Moonbrita says, I know of a way to get you to where Lady Iceheart is.
So she does 2 purposes. One, we find out Lady Iceheart has basically sealed herself in a distant area of a Snowcloak Dungeon that can't be accessed by Aetherite. However, because Aetherite basically is like a phone service,
you can just star 226 the other Aetheryte.
Pretty much.
Which is, I know that sounds simplistic as fuck, but that's basically how she explains it.
Yeah, she basically says, there's a lingering trail. We can follow that if we use the right method.
Right, and she also starts working on a way to combat the Ascians.
Yes.
For you as well. This leads to fighting Lady Iceheart, who not just summons Siva, but incorporates her.
She basically uses her body as the vessel for summoning Shiva.
Where have we seen this before, I wonder?
I don't know, but anyway, we get that fight.
No, that one was actually fairly hard. That one, I will say, I think the damage was a little... Definitely, I felt the...
Yeah, I helped you with that fight, didn't I?
Yes.
Yeah, that Shiva fight is pretty hard if you don't know what you're doing.
And ice physics. Who loves your ice physics?
Oh, yes.
It only gets worse.
This is Shadowbringers. This is me thinking about Shadowbringers stuff.
Oh, and I know about a certain deity fight that happens much later on, too.
Yes, but basically, Shiva's an interesting fight. And you defeat her, and she basically gives some cryptic speech about her possibly having the echo.
Right, which does get confirmed later on, but is that Patch Quest, or is that Early Heaven's Ward?
That's Early Heaven's Ward.
Okay, that does get confirmed early on in Early Heaven's Ward.
Yes.
Which is interesting because it kind of puts Lady Iceheart as sort of an anti-Warrior of Light. Not a Warrior of Darkness yet.
No.
But an anti-Warrior of Light.
Yeah.
And I say that specifically because of dialogue from a certain other character who is probably the character I hate second to Telegietaleji.
And that is?
He gets introduced in the next patch.
Still,
so 2.5 and...
Oh, well, first off...
Oh, there's one last thing.
Nanamo has a meeting with the other two leading ladies of the republics, which
it's at that point you realize, wait, all three of these nations are being led by women?
Yes.
Yeah, how about that?
I mean, Raban's kind of like the face.
Raban is the muscle.
Raban is the muscle,
but the state of the head of state is Nanamo.
Yes.
So regardless of how you feel about a royalty, Raban is literally just the muscle.
Yes. But basically, Nanamo talks to Connie Senna and Merle Webb about her plans to abdicate the throne and create a republic.
Mainly because of the fact that both her position as royalty as well as the syndicate's overall messiness is not working out for the benefit of the people.
Yeah, basically the monetarists are...
fucking everything up as they do.
Yes.
Okay, with that last bit of setup, we go now to 2.5.
2.5 and 2.55 before the fall.
So now we get to my second least favorite character behind Telegietaleji, Midgard Somber.
Oh, really? You don't like Midi?
Midi, well, let me explain why Midi is presently my second least favorite character. Because Midi is a fucking angel of death. Part of Lady Iceheart's farewell message is basically the dragons are coming back. And if you don't believe me, go check out the fucking Keeper of the Lake.
Yes, basically, Midgard Sommer, a.k.a. the eldest, most ancient, and most powerful of dragons that supposedly died during 1.0.
This will probably make you laugh, and I'm not sure how many of our viewers are going to get this reference, but I imagine Midgard Sommer sounding like Mr. Popo.
No, he doesn't.
No, he sounds that way in my head because the way that he predicts certain events, he might as well just be saying, "You're gonna die tonight.
You're gonna die."
So that's basically why I do not like Midgard Somber.
Well, he basically, you have to fight an astral projection of him
through wreckage of airships,
of a Garlean airship. Mm-hmm. that Midgard Sommer had attacked. I believe all this happened during the Battle of Cartno with Bahamut.
Yes.
Yes, and he fell into Silver Tear Lake.
Correct, which is why it's all fucked up the way that it is.
Right. and you fight him. He said he's impressed, but he decides to give you a test of sorts and basically shoots you with a beam of light and severs your connection to Hydaelyn.
Right. And he decides, I'm going to go and see how this plays out, and now you have Mini Midgardsormr.
Mini.
Mini.
Yeah.
This is why I find him annoying, because he literally pops up to just comment and eat popcorn while shit happens.
Pretty much. Keep him. As a note, he's going to keep doing that for a while.
We'll see if he manages to get into my good graces.
Yes. But we lose the blessing of light for now, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, it is revealed that the artifact that Minfilia had been displaying behind her, that staff belonged to Louis Soir, was Tup Samadhi, a powerful relic and power source that the Ascians do not want the Warrior of Light to have control over.
So they go ahead and send another one of their number, Nabriales, to go ahead, theft/destroy the weapon.
Steal/destroy the weapon, and take Minfilia as a hostage. And you are forced to fight him in the trial known as the Chrysalis.
Yep.
How was that fight?
I don't think it was that bad from what I recall. I remember that one. I think we had a bad party comp in just, I think the healer dropped the ball at one point. But I think that was the only reason we had to reset, and then I think afterwards I remember it was I remember what it was. So there's a point where falling projectiles are occurring.
Yeah.
And the tanks have to go ahead and absorb the hit, so that way it doesn't cause AoE trigger.
Right.
And I think that I was playing DPS at the time, so the tanks were fucking up.
Oh.
I think that's what it was.
Okay.
And so I was resorting to DPS tanking, which you shouldn't do unless absolutely necessary.
Right.
So that didn't really help things either. That's what it was.
Right.
So, but I do remember after we got over that, it went better.
Yes. And then afterwards, you bring Minfilia back. Nabrialis comes back to gloat, saying he cannot die.
And so, by this point, Mo and Britta you have perfected the trapping method. Basically, pure white Auracite acts like a Pokeball to these fuckers.
Yes.
And so, you needed black Auracite I think it was...
They needed black Auracite in order to house their souls.
In order to store it, but then white pure Auracite to destroy them for good.
Yes.
So, basically, the problem was that in theory, you had enough for one or the other, not both at the same time. Even the Warrior of Light, prior to getting nerfed by Midgardsormr, could do that. But even with their massive amount of Aether, in theory, there was no feasible way to do it without either only having it for a short limit of time or risking your own life.
Right.
And so because of the nerf by Midgardsormr, Mo Britta steps up and basically burns her own life in order to guarantee Nabrialis' destruction.
Yeah, basically, we were using Tup Samadhi to create a blade of light to pierce the Nabrialis while in the Auracite.
Mm-hmm.
But it was not enough, so Moonbrita goes and sacrifices herself. And a lot of people hate that she was sacrificed so soon.
Yep, especially Urianger, who never recovers from that.
No, he never really does until Endwalker. Sorta.
Okay.
But
that is more or less the end of the Ascian arc at this point.
Yeah. I believe, keep in mind, I believe there's a writer or creator on the Final Fantasy team who really hated the fact that Moonbrita died.
Mm-hmm.
And I can sort of see that in the way that they treat another character in Stormblood.
Okay.
Yeah, but...
I think I know what you're talking about, because there was... When they're doing the thing with... Because part of the quest also includes they do services for Moonbrita.
Yeah.
And one of the parts is that Yida is very much affected by it as well.
Yeah.
And Yida and Papa Limo have this moment where they're basically talking. as they're putting flowers on their graves, and fucking Midgardsormr pops up to spout some cryptic nonsense that I summarily took as they're going to be next. Which is again, this is why I do not like Midgardsormr. Every time he pops up, it's more bad news from his mouth.
Yeah, it is at first. It is at first. But anyway, we're on the part 2 now.
We need to get back to the dragon aspect of the plotline now.
In this point, we finally talk to Emmerich, who introduces us, if you have not done the Lancer/Dragoon questline, to Estinian.
Yes.
And you see Estinian, and he says that he is basically the best Dragoon of Ishgard, the Azure Dragoon. And it's his job to slay the dragons.
Right. Now, you started as a Lancer.
Yes.
So, and I know you mentioned this back in ARR, but remind us again what that impact is.
Well, basically, at that point, I believe Estinian was going on about the idea that there can't be 2 Azure Dragoons because apparently we have the potential to be another Azure Dragoon. And he is constantly testing us and giving some vague threats at the time. He's very antagonistic during that quest line. And then he suddenly shows up here, and if you're a Dragoon, he says, I'm not here to continue our quarrel.
We have So wake the fuck up, samurai, we have dragons to slay.
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
My memory of the quest line for Dragoon is very flimsy at this point because I've shifted away from being a Dragoon in game to being either a Reaper, a Dancer,
or a Candlestick Maker.
Oh, shut up.
Still, so in Estinian, I know becomes much more pronounced in main storylines, even if you're not a Dragoon.
Yes.
So
he becomes a part of the storyline. You'll see him eventually. And but anyway, here is the thing that happens now. Basically, a giant dragon, one of Nidhogg's best warriors, is coming down to attack Ishgard.
And which is Nidhogg?
Nidhogg is one of Midgardsormr's brood.
So basically, I'm going to go ahead and end this war. This is them attempting to breach the gates.
In a way, I believe Nidhogg's machinations are much different than you realize, but you'll find out later. Okay. But basically, Nidhogg is very pissed. He is basically the reason why there's a war against the dragons. And he sends his biggest dragon to basically cause as much damage as possible. And thus begins the Steps of Faith solo instance for you.
So, explain to me how this was before, because you're telling me, I believe this was one of the other changes in which this quest was made as a Rei'tan. It was initially an 8-member instance.
Yes, it was originally a trial. And basically, what you had to do was you had to constantly battle the things that the dragons that constantly spawned around the big guy, and you had to go off to different turrets and stuff to fire off attacks to basically stop him from breaching the gate. However, with the advent of higher item levels and better gear, basically the trial became to the point where you could just attack the big guy constantly and you could beat him really quickly.
Okay, that's why it was changed to solo instance.
Pretty much, because it became just it got outclassed.
Okay. Also, I was going through the quests just to make sure, because after you do the Steps of Faith is a set instance. You basically are holding the line, and eventually you fight the dragons off.
Yes.
But that becomes our introduction. Basically, because of that, the Emmerich is grateful for the party's assistance and is basically agreeing, I'm going to owe you one.
Yes, I'm going to owe you one. I will talk with the Holy See about if we can help in future endeavors.
Right. Now, there was actually one quest line we did miss because this was ongoing after Ulfino set up the Crystal Braves.
Yes.
And that was the trader within the I forgot my own fucking grand company. Great.
The Crystal Braves.
No.
Oh.
The one in Ul'dah.
Oh, the Immortal Flames.
The Immortal Flames. So part of the quest line and the reason why the monitorists keep getting an upper hand is because they have an informant within the Immortal Flames. This is part of the reason why the Crystal Braves need to be formed, is so that way they can assist third party. One of the members in the Crystal Braves, Ilberd, is an old friend of Rei'tan. They both came from Almigo. They both fought in the Gladiatorium, but only Rei'tan was the one who got out.
Yeah. Basically, Rei'tan earned enough money through gladiatorial combat that he could buy his way into the Syndicate.
He not only bought his way into the Syndicate, he bought the own Coliseum that he was once enslaved in.
Yeah.
Which is why it no longer operates as a slave pit and more now as a place it still is a gambling area, but now it's of your own accord.
Yes. Still,
Ilbert has some history with Rei'tan, and that does become an issue going forward. So the quest line regarding the traitor in the Immortal Flames has you and Ilbert, and remind me who Ilbert's voice actor is. Oh. Because I told you, like, I don't trust. He Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah, he voices the same voice actor as Ansem.
Yes. That's why. So I immediately heard this guy and I'm like, I do not trust this fucker. He is number 3 on my list. And so like I immediately like this patch is not just the worst just because it has so many characters I hate. So Ilbert, I do not trust him. We're following this traitor's path. I do not trust this. But apparently it turns out we find the traitor known as the Ivy. And we end up catching her outside. I forget what the northern area
Camp Blue Fog.
Camp Blue Fog. We eventually corner and capture them, managing to go ahead and detain them as the source of the information leak, and hopefully plugging the issues with the monitorists. However, as Nanamo is set to go ahead and basically announce giving up her reign, as well as celebrating the triumphs of the Crystal Braves, we get a missive saying that something is amiss, and we're dragged away from Ul'dah before the banquet begins.
Yeah,
only for a certain Lancer prick to show up and basically say, "Yeah, someone is going to go ahead and poison Nanamo."
Yeah,
and here's the vial that they're going to do it with. Wait, what? Oh. So what ends up happening, if I'm summarizing this properly,
right,
is that Nanamo takes a drink, collapses from poison.
Yeah.
And then as a result, because we're the ones coming back with this vial of poison, we get framed for her death.
Pretty much.
Which results in a massive headhunt for the Scions of the Seventh Dawn, forcing a complete retreat through the sewer system.
Yes, but before that happens, Rei'tan absolutely loses his bloody shit.
Yes, as he does, and Ilburn
first off, Teleji Adeleji starts gloating.
Of course he does, because he secretly is the one who poisoned her.
Yes, he's the mastermind.
Mm-hmm.
And thus, this is why it's known as the Bloody Banquet, because Rei'tan, in all his rage and fury as the Alamegan Bull, charges at Teleji Adeleji and bifurcates the little midget.
Yep. Wait, what? I'm definitely do not what?
He bifurcated him.
Wow.
Yeah. That's what the swinging was. His upper half literally fell from his bottom half. Teleji Adeleji got bifurcated.
I thought that was a duplicate.
No, that was Teleji Adeleji. The fucker's dead.
See, the trailer had me completely fucked with.
Oh, the trailer the other person that you're seeing is Lord Lolorito.
Oh. Okay, that adds layer upon layers.
Yes, because Lord Lolorito then charges Rei'tan with treason.
With treason for murder of Lord Teleji Adeleji.
Yes.
And
that causes Ilbert to step in.
Okay, so that's my fault because I confused Lolorito and Alegi. I know Alegi was an asshole. I know Lolorito was kind of a... He's telling me Alegi's an asshole. I completely forgot that Lolorito is also an asshole.
Yes, Lolorito is a complete asshole.
And therefore, your hatred of Lalafell is justified.
Yes. Yes, never trust the Lalafell. I don't care if people act sweet and cute and kind. I do not trust that little potato as far as I can throw it, and I can punt one of those damn far.
Yes.
Ugh. But anyway, Ilberd cuts off Raubon's arm.
In response, and therefore secures himself in Lord Lolorito's graces, although it's kind of hinted he was working for him beforehand and was a plant inside the Crystal Graves.
Yes, in fact, he even does so by confessing that he was the one who poisoned Nanamo.
Yep.
It was me. All along.
Yep. Now, the result of the rest of the party ends up as such. Let me see. Papalimo, Ulda...
Papalimo and Ida stay behind to fight back the guards.
Thancred goes ahead and runs off to try and make sure that your trail doesn't get followed.
Well, basically, you, Minfilia, Thancred, and Y'shtola get into the sewers.
Okay, now I remember. You get to an aetherite, which you basically use to escape from the sewers, you know?
No, you basically just kind of go through the sewers.
Okay, you run through the sewers.
Yeah. And basically, Y'shtola and Thancred stay behind once again to halt the oncoming enemies. And then, while you and Minfilia are running for your lives, it was then at all times Hydaelyn decided to chime in and say, "Hey, Minfilia, I need you to go back there for a reason. Something's going to happen, and I'm going to need you to be there for it."
Okay.
And basically, you are left all on your own, while Alphino is currently being held at knife point by his own Crystal Braves.
Right.
Yeah, but you managed to escape, and then you managed to get to
Camp...
you get to Camp Dragonhead with the help of the courier, the Chocobo carriage guy that you met at the very beginning of the game, where you meet up with Alphino, and you find out that Yugiri was the one that saved Alphino. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and she lost her mask in the process.
And also, I forgot what her name is.
Oh, Tataru.
Tataru managed to get out as well, thankfully.
Yes.
So at this point, the Crystal Braves are only you, Tataru, and Alphino.
Well, the Crystal Braves are basically not even under your control anymore.
Right, but still, the organization, the Scions, I mean. The Scions are basically you, Alphino, and Tataru.
And, yeah, basically, that's the case, and...
That's the setup for going into Heavensward, is that Imric comes back and says, "Good news, we're going to go ahead and bring you under protective custody to make sure that this shit doesn't happen." Right.
You are located at what's basically called the Falling Snows, which is what Horshaphant calls it when he tries to comfort you and Alphino after the ordeal. Mm-hmm. And, well, before we go into Heavensward, because you have gone into Heavensward a little bit, what are your thoughts on the patch quests overall?
I mean, I think my biggest complaint is that the patch quests would have generally 2 points. They had one point in which the overarching conflict between the transitionary story of resolving the Garleans, dealing with the Ashians, and setting up the political drama that leads into Heavensward, and then you had a bunch of primal nonsense in the back end of that.
Yeah.
In my mind, 2.1 to 2.3 is where that's weak, where that doesn't really work, because you're trying to resolve all these loose ends to basically say, look, I know this was a thing. Here's your primal fight. You don't need to worry about this anymore.
Yes. We gave you your primal fight. We promised these guys beforehand in the old ones, but now we have them in now.
Which is why Ramu and Leviathan were kind of all right. And then I think Mogomog is really the only one that's the best of the three, which is saying something.
Yeah, it's probably the more interesting fight, all things considered, because I've done like Leviathan recently, and it's just a nothing fight for the most part.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm wondering how people thought of it back then. If there are people who were around in the early parts, I don't know if they'll ever hear this podcast, but if anyone that ever was there for Through the Maelstrom, what were your thoughts on the Leviathan fight and the Ramu fight, respectively? Because I don't know anyone in my friend group that was there when those patch quests came out.
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. But
then 2.4 to the end was much more substantive in terms of the overall plot and going into Heaven's Word much stronger. Definitely kicking the feels. Definitely a lot of high drama. And I can definitely see where it starts to get a lot of the... We're having the makings of the meme in terms of the overarching story being as intense and as dramatic as people make it out to be.
Yeah, there was a lot of stuff that you had to go through in A Realm Reborn that you lead up to, but going through that will pay off for every expansion afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
If you remember stuff from ARR, it will come back again in future expansions. Mm-hmm. But basically, Heaven's Ward is where the developers were going, we probably only have one shot at this, given how rough the Realm Reborn stuff was. Let's just go out as crazy as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's basically what Heaven's Ward was. And so we go ahead and enter the city of Ishgard and start Heaven's Ward. I believe you've only gotten through like the introductory quests with the...
Correct.
So when you enter Heaven's Ward, when you enter Ishgard, I mean.
Yes.
You see a whole bunch of stuff. You see stonework. You see temple knights. You see...
You very much, okay, we are going hard fantasy on this. The very hard, low fantasy on it. You have stonework laden, basically city. You have the high class, you have the low class, the middle class. You have the religious folk that are oppressing the lower class. You have
the four high houses.
Yeah, the four high houses. Like, it's very much, we are going to brass tacks.
Yes.
And I think it does a very good job of it. I am very surprised that the elves are the one in charge here.
Really?
Just because, again, old fantasy tropes exist. The elves belong in the forest.
Yes.
So to see them, one, develop civilized houses, two, run the church, and three, basically have their own orthodoxy, that is the last thing you would expect to hear from the elves.
Yeah.
So I'm just very interesting how it turns that aspect of it on its head. It's also relatively advanced, given the fact that this is also the debut of the machinist class.
Yes.
They actually have firearms.
Mm-hmm. Well, they have to fight the dragons.
Which is, and
they literally have the Dragonator from Monster Hunter.
And to be fair, like, if you ever watch the short run anime Gate, which is a what if fantasy had to interact with modern military, yeah, that's basically how you'd want to counter that.
Yeah.
But they also have another class that's released at the same time.
Yeah, they have the Dark Knight, and they have the Astrologian as well.
Yes, so the Astrologian, or as you call it faithfully, playing Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yes.
So, if I remember correctly, that one is a... remind me, it's not direct heal, but it
is a direct heal.
It's a direct heal class? Okay.
Yeah, basically what you do is you constantly draw cards, and they basically give a random buff to a certain party member.
Okay.
Basically, you draw a card... It pops up, and it goes to a random player.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've gotten a few buffs from them. Probably not intentionally.
Mm-hmm. And then the other one is, of course, the Dark Knight, which is what I've been focusing on.
Yes, you are starting on what is considered to be one of the best written job classes.
Mm-hmm.
Because the writer for the Dark Knight job quest, Ishikawa, wrote Shadowbringers.
Yes, and I did know that because Pat couldn't shut up about it on Castle Super Beast.
Oh.
So, I did know that, and that was at least part of the reason why, although also being tank DPS helps too.
Yes.
Because they do have the highest damage output of the tank classes, I think.
They have the highest one, but they have the worst invulnerability.
Yes, Living Undead?
Living Dead.
Or Living Dead, which is basically you can survive past death. You have a 1-minute timer. If the healer doesn't bring you back up to max, you're donezo.
I don't think it's a 1-minute timer.
It's a set timer though. That they have a certain time limit to bring you back up to full.
Yes.
And if they are 1 HP short, you're dead.
Yes. It is a really stupid invulnerability.
But I mean, it's fitting for the class.
Yes.
Still, you go ahead. I've gone through at least, I think, 3. Starts off at level 30, right?
Yes, it starts off at level 30.
30. So you go 30, 35. So intro's 30, 35, 40, 45. So I think I've done 3 or 4 quests already within the initial quest series.
Right.
And so, interestingly enough, it's very interesting because they're not saying Warrior Dark yet either for Dark Knight, ironically. Yeah. But they are basically saying you do use darkness in order to channel yourself.
You're basically using your heightened emotions, your raw emotions, to channel energy, to channel ether.
Right. And they go, and it goes, you inherit your job crystal in an unorthodox way, and you're relying on learning from that in order to be able to go ahead and master your classes with the help of your job mentor.
Yeah. It basically gives insight onto your own warrior of light, which is really interesting.
It's also where I at least encountered it here, but it does come up more within Heaven's Ward itself, points that they actually let you have dialogue.
Yeah.
To where this is where you can start having
flavor text.
I would say it's less flavor text, and it's more akin to Persona 4. And I say 4 specifically because people meme about Yu Narukami is always option C. The Persona characters, at least Yu Narukami and Ren Akira to a lesser degree, but really it's Yu Narukami.
Yeah.
Option C is what the canonical option is, because option C is always the mouthy one.
Yes.
It is always the one you being a smartass.
Yeah. Well, it's not always the third one. Sometimes it's the second one.
Sometimes, but it usually, because they didn't want to completely copy Persona.
I'm just going to say this right now. There's one in patch 6.1 where you're going through this dungeon. And
yes, I know which one you're talking about for 6.1.
Yeah, where you say, well, you see, I wasn't going to, but Y'shtola, and then
you throw Y'shtola under the bus, and antics ensue.
She just literally turns over and says, you and I will talk later.
Mm-hmm.
And you can feel the dread coming from that. Because you know she's going to cast testicular torsion on you.
Why? You know what? That is far beyond the scope of this podcast. We're moving on.
Okay, fair enough.
So you get introduced to our, I don't even know
benefactor,
which is Count Forte.
No, it's Count Edmond du Forton.
Edmond du Forton. Okay.
Forton.
Yes.
Yeah. Just remember, it's Forton.
Fortin.
Oh, God damn it.
Either way,
I always have this issue with you. You can't English right.
No, I can't French right.
All right, fair enough.
Either way, Count Fortin and his 2 dumbass sons.
Technically 3, because Orchefant is actually the illegitimate bastard son.
But he is the good egg. We're not talking about him. We're talking about the dumbasses.
Yes, we are talking about Imanolaine and Artoriel.
Artoriel is the firstborn and the one with the stick up his ass.
Pretty much.
And
Imanolaine,
who wants to put his stick in someone else's ass.
God, that little shit. I have to deal with him every expansion, it feels like. And I'm like, can I just punch you in your smug face?
You would, but then he would like it.
No, he wouldn't. No, he wouldn't. He's such a fop.
Well, they both kind of are fops in their own way, but
first off,
but basically the Count wants you to one, look after his sons, because he wants you to make sure that they don't fuck up for the appearance of nobility's sake. But second, it also serves as the introduction to 2 sub areas that I assume we'll be coming back to more often.
Yes. To start off with, because I joined Leo for this part, we start off with going with Imanolaine to the Sea of Clouds and going to Camp Cloudtop.
Mm-hmm. which introduces us to a new Beastman race, the Vanu Vanu.
Yes.
Which are basically sentient owlbears.
Yes, they pretty much are. And they start their fights by doing weird dances.
I mean, they're basically JoJo posing. Tell me that I'm wrong.
I mean, you're not wrong.
And they worship a giant white whale.
Bismarck, yeah. That's a deep cut for Final Fantasy fans.
Oh yeah, no, that absolutely is a deep cut. I at least know that much.
Yeah.
Still, with, they basically are introduced, says, don't worry about them, we'll come back to them later.
We'll come back to the Primal later. Much later. Much later.
And then, we went to the Western Highlands with Orifel. Artoriel.
Yeah.
Who's much more formal of the two, but definitely a bit more of a coward. A bit less of a coward than his brother, actually.
Yeah. But, he's still nobility.
Yes.
But it's weird. Count Edmund is such a fucking bro. He respects the Warrior of Light.
Well, that often comes with age and having a incredibly excellent voice actor.
Oh, yeah.
Because the introduction in which Count Forton describes your journey to
the area
Ishgard is absolutely golden, and the method in which it is narrated is just absolutely stellar.
Yes.
Kiss.
I'm just going to tell you right now, the entirety of Heaven's Ward is written from Count Forton's memoirs, which is dubbed Heaven's Ward.
Roll title,
pretty much. Mm-hmm. But yeah, every time you go to a new area, Count Edmund recalls your entrance into there, and it always ends with, he came. Mm-hmm. I know that look on your face. Get your head out of the gutter.
Either way, we learn about the Western Highlands in the... So there's 2 points to note. Sea of Clouds introduced us to... Oh, by the way, you can't fly just anywhere, just like you could in ARR. If you're going to fly, you have to find ether currents.
Yep, which are unlocked by finding points with the ether compass and doing quests in that area, as well as progressing the main storyline.
So just like you would unlock your movement speed options in ARR.
Yeah. Basically, you're not going to be flying in the main storyline, pretty much.
Flight is for post-game.
Flight is for post-expansion. Flight is for when you have fucking time after the main story to faff about, gather the ether currents, and just say, fuck it.
Mm-hmm. We also go to the Western Highlands, learn this place used to be nice before
the calamity,
and that's why it's so fucking cold now.
Yeah, basically it just caused a shift to etheric ice everywhere.
This is also the point we meet Lady Iceheart again, and Midgar Summer basically confirms that, yeah, she's effectively a Warrior of Light.
Yeah. That's pretty much the case. She was gifted with the Echo, she saw horrible visions, and then she met with one of another Midgard Summer's brood, Freysvelge.
Which is where she kind of got her heretic ideas.
Yes.
Now, I have done past this point.
Okay.
I know several story beats that I can tell you off cuff. I'm going to say that for the next episode, though.
All right, you know what? That is perfectly fair because we've actually been going for a fair amount of time, and
so I think if I actually, because it's mainly the holdup at this point is going through the patch quest. Not patch quest, sorry. Leveling up Dark Knight is basically been the next roadblock, as it were, from progression. Getting that caught up, possibly getting Bard upgraded as well, because I want to. I've had my fill with both Red Mage. I have started Red Mage also, by the way.
Yeah, which is technically a Stormblood job, but it starts you at 50, so...
Yes. And Monk. I've had my fill of both for right now. And Bard is one I wanted to at least try because it's ranged.
Yeah.
I did, for the sake of seeing it, try Thaumaturgist. I did not get Black Mage yet.
No.
But that is so fucking slow.
Yeah.
Joe Cat was not exaggerating about it being so goddamn slow.
Yeah. I am not joking. I got 2 levels in and I was like, this is not for me. This is not for me.
So I will be sticking with Red Mage for my magic DPS.
Okay.
But I probably will be just casually leveling that up until I hit Stormblood.
All right.
I assume that, and it's weird because the Heaven's Ward classes start you off at 30.
Yes.
And it's basically after that that's like, this is fucking stupid. We'll just start everyone off at 50.
Well, here's the thing. For Stormblood classes, you start at 50.
Mm-hmm.
For Shadowbringers classes, you start at 60.
Okay, so they at least bring it to where...
And for Endwalkers, you start at 70.
So they bring you 20 below?
Yes, pretty much.
Okay, so this is actually consistent.
It's been consistent.
Okay, so 50, 30... Yeah, but then... Okay, either way. No, because that makes sense, because by the time Stormblood comes in, the level cap is now 70, so bringing you in at 50 makes sense.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to see how that works out, and so really, Bard would be the next one to bring in. I am on the fence about whether I want to touch Samurai still.
It's a good quest line.
It's a good class, and I like Samurai, period. So just like...
I mean, we're both fucking weebs.
Right, so it's just a matter of whether or not I want to do it. I definitely know I want to do Red Mage. Bard, I still want to at least try out. I at least started Machinist to consider that alongside Bard to see which of the two I carry
better.
More, and then from there, when I reach Shadowbringers... Reaper came out in Shadowbringers?
No, Dancer and Gunbreaker came out.
Gunbreaker comes out in Shadowbringers, and then Reaper and Endwalker.
Yes.
Okay.
Reaper and Sage came out in Endwalker.
We only had one class announced for Dawn Trail.
Well, as of recording this, the European Fan Fest has just finished its first day. We are getting 2 classes.
Okay, so we know that one is...
Viper,
which is effectively a swashbuckler-esque that also gets the Twin Blade.
Yeah, it's basically Zidane class from Final Fantasy IX.
Yeah. What is the other... So, and everyone had been speculating that one of them has to be a scouting class.
Yes.
Which is what Viper is.
People were calling it Corsair, but it's Viper now.
Well, because everyone thought it was, we're going to a tropical area, there is on a fucking pirate ship, he might as well be a fucking pirate, so everyone's sad that he doesn't have a gun.
Yeah.
Even though we technically have 3 classes that have guns?
You
have Damage Gun in Machinist. You have Defender Gun in the Gunblade. You have the Gunblade in Gunbreaker. And you have Floaty Science Gun with the Sage.
Yes.
So you have guns.
Yeah. Well, basically, Sage is Gundam bits. They're basically Gundam laser bits.
Right.
Because Yoshi P loves fucking Gundam.
Sure. Okay, so what is the next class? Is that
It's going to be a Magic DPS.
Magic DPS? Okay.
That's what we know. The only hint we have for it at the moment of recording this is that Yoshi P wore a shirt with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles on it.
So, if I remember that conversation we had, the joke was Michelangelo, Leonardo, Donatello, Raphael, all famous Renaissance painters. The Magic DPS class is Pictographer.
Or Pictomancer. Yeah.
I believe that is that was the theory at the time.
Yeah, it's either that or Green Mage, or maybe the fact that they're turtles. There's actually a turtle race in Stormblood called the Kojin, which have ties to geomancy, so it could be Geomancer.
Okay.
So the top 3 choices at the moment are either Green Mage, Geomancer, or Pictomancer. Mm-hmm. Those are the main things that people are considering about.
Do you have any preference for any of those?
Honestly, no, not at the moment. I'd have to see how they play.
Okay, you're not going to suffer for the flavor.
I'm not going to. The only thing I'm waiting for right now is when are we getting fucking Femme Hrothgars?
Took the words right out of my mouth. And with that note, we're going to go ahead and end this Aethercast here.
Alright, so thank you all for watching. If you liked the video, please leave a like, leave a comment. And as always, I am Ray.
I am Leo.
And we will see you all on the next Aethercast. Take care and have a good day.